everyone. I am Rozelin, and I'm a master's student at Kadir Has University. Today I will be presenting the relationship between utilitarianism and reflection as one of the outcome of the project, which is funded by Templeton Religion Trust. So I will start my presentation with a brief literature review, then I will move on to the aim of the study. Then I will mention the methods, our research questions and hypotheses. Then I will go over the materials that we used, the results, and at the end I will discuss the findings that we found. So yeah, I think now you are familiar with these scenarios because both Onurcan and Valeria mentioned about that. So the main aim of the scenarios is to make you think that it is morally acceptable to kill someone to save 5 others. So if you are accepting to save 5 people in these scenarios and the killing one, basically you are utilitarian. But if you reject to save 5 and don't want to interrupt the scenario, don't want to interrupt the event here, so you're basically deontological. So most of the people are avoiding to give the utilitarian decision in the first dilemma because the dual process of moral cognition states that because there is a direct physical harm in the first one and the utilitarian decision in the second scenario is higher than the first one. So the reason for that, because intuitively people don't want to give harm, but the model states that if they think more analytically and they can calculate the cost and benefit analysis, they can give utilitarian decision. There are 2 recent meta-analyses. The first one examined the cognitive processing manipulations in 72 studies of sacrificial dilemmas, and they couldn't find a significant effect. But more recent ones show that intuition manipulations in 52 studies of personal dilemmas, like in the first one, there is a small negative effect on utilitarian decision. So, but of course, these scenarios, sacrificial scenarios, has some criticism in the literature. So, first of all, there's an intention-behavior gap. For example, one study shows that in real life, people behave more utilitarian. And in another study, basically Behrman et al. Argues that there is a low external validity of that scenarios because you cannot kill anyone in real life like that scenario, so we cannot generalize these scenarios to the real life. And also, the last criticism is about the relationship between psychopathy and utilitarian decision making. After lots of studies found that this relationship, some scholars argues that so there are a part of utilitarianism that doesn't include any harm, so it is basically includes impartial concerns. So in this study, since we have cross-sectional data, we examined the relationship between various reflection measures and utilitarianism measures. And since we have both intention and behavior measures of utilitarianism, we tested the intention-behavior gap. Then, since the project goal is to examine the religious people, we also tested the religiosity as a boundary condition. So in the pretest, so the study includes the 2 parts. In the first part, we collected data from 1,200 participants, and most of our measurements are coming from the pretest. We have self-reflection measures, which based on different bases, like self-report base, performance, and cognitive ability. And also we have an intention-based utilitarianism measure. Then we measured the level of religiosity. After 17 months, we called the same participants for the pre-test, post-test phase, and 321 participants attended our study. In this part, we just collected their utilitarian behavior. Alongside with the behavior, we also measured their justification in their decision. So in the pretest, we explored the relationship between reflection measures and also two subscales of Oxford Utilitarianism scale, which are impartial beneficence and instrumental harm. Our second study, our second part, was pre-registered, so we have hypothesis, and we are all expecting that utilitarian behavior will be positively correlated with both subscale of Oxford Utilitarianism scale, and also we expected that cognitive performance will be positively related to utilitarian behavior. So these are our reflection measures. As a self-report reflection measure, we use 4-component thinking style questionnaire. It has 4 subscale. They are actively open-minded thinking, closed-minded thinking, preference for utilitarian thinking, and preference for effortful thinking. And also we have 2 different performance-based reflection. One of them is the cognitive performance task. This task includes 5 multiple choice questions, and questions has 1 intuitive, 1 correct answer, and the other 3 answer is wrong answers. And we measured cognitive ability as well as one of the reflection measure. We use Raven's matrices, which is basically measuring the abstract reasoning. And as an intention-based utilitarianism measure, we use Oxford Utilitarianism scale. This scale includes 2 subdimensions. The instrumental harm is basically the same thing with the sacrificial dilemmas. It measures the sacrificing an individual to save a greater number, but this scale is a relatively new scale because maybe the last 20 years, scholars focuses on sacrificial dilemmas, but as I mentioned earlier, some scholars argue that utilitarianism can also be impartial rather than giving harm, and it is a more altruistic side of the utilitarianism. So it focuses on the impartial concern for the greater good. Okay, as a behavioral measurement, we use monetary moral dilemma game. We took it from Boston et al., but we didn't use exactly the same. They were using a text, but we also added figures. In this task, we first show a current arrangement to participants, and we told them that you and 1 participant were awarded a $1, but 5 other participants didn't get any award. But you have a chance to change that arrangement. You can take the $1 to the C1, the 1 participant, and you can give the other 5 participants as $1. It's basically you are maximizing the overall finance here. And after the task, we ask participants' participant justification in that task. We ask if their motivation or if their justification is based on morality or they don't concern any a moral principle. And we ask their, and by the way, all of them were single item questions. And we ask that, if it is, if their decision coming from the belief in fate. And also we ask their deontological judgment if they're concerning that giving any harm is wrong, independent from their outcome. And also we ask their utilitarian judgment by asking, are you aiming to maximize the overall good? And then we ask their virtue ethics concern and also inequality aversion if they are concerned this when they are deciding in that task. So these are the overall correlations. Okay, the blank ones were not significant correlations. I am not sure if you are seeing okay. Yeah. Can you see the red and blue here? It is not obvious, right? Okay. So yeah, I added all utilitarianism and reflection measures in one table. And as you can see, like instrumental harm has only correlated with self-report reflection, and impartiality is a bit mixed, like both performance-based and both self-report reflection, and it's a mixed, I think, results because when we look at the Monetary Moral Dilemma game, our utilitarian behavior is positively correlated with our performance-based measures and also actively open-minded thinking, but negatively correlated with closed-minded thinking and preference for intuitive thinking. Then I wanted to see that if these measures, how can we interpret all of them in a one equation? Then I conducted two different hierarchical regression for both impartial beneficence and instrumental harm. As a first step, I added the self-report measures. When I added the self-report measures, preference for intuitive thinking positively predicted the impartial beneficence, and preference for effortful thinking predicted negatively. So as a second step, I added our performance-based measures, and the overall model was improved. And after adding that, actively open-minded thinking and preference for intuitive thinking positively predicted, and cognitive performance task negatively predicted. So I did the same thing for the instrumental harm as well. In the first step, I added the self-report measures, and both like preferences for thinking, like one of them positively predicted and the second one negatively predicted. As a second step, I added the performance-based measures, but the model didn't change and didn't improve at all. So in the post-test part, 69% of participants made a utilitarian decision in the task, and decision in the task is not correlated with either impartial beneficence and instrumental harm, so we failed to support our first and second hypothesis. And in the third hypothesis, utilitarian choice is increased by 1.19 times with a unit increase in cognitive performance scores. So basically we supported our third hypothesis. So I again did the same analysis with the generalized logistic linear model. I add the self-report measures at the first level, and actively open-minded thinking only predicted positively to utilitarian behavior. And in the second step, I added the performance-based. Results show that like only actively open-minded thinking and the cognitive ability, which is measured by Raven's progressive matrices, positively predicted the utilitarian behavior. In this matrix, you can see that the moral motivations or justifications, how they are related to decision in Monetary Moral Dilemma game. So as you can see, instrumental harm is only negatively related to virtue ethical justifications. But in impartiality, which is surprising results for us because it's all positively correlated with almost all justifications except immorality. So we can say that impartiality may not distinguish the different moral principles. It can only distinguish between immorality and morality, general morality. But our task, we can say that our task is successful to measure utilitarianism because it's only positively related with utilitarian justification, but negatively related the rest of the moral principles behind the decision. I think I'm going too fast. Okay. And also I tested the moderation role of the religiosity. So there is a main effect that high scores on cognitive performance increase the odds of utilitarian decision, but religiosity did not affect utilitarian decision alone. When I interact them, there's a negative interaction between cognitive performance and religiosity. So it means that if religiosity is decreasing, the relationship between a utilitarian decision and cognitive performance are increasing. So we can explain these results as that believers and non-believers differentiate in terms of their epistemic norms. Maybe believers more focus on reasoning in their moral decision, but on the other hand, believers may more focus on their intuition, maybe social norms. And also, I did the same analysis with only believers and non-believers, but I couldn't replicate the results, maybe because the numbers are getting decreasing and I haven't enough power in that sample. Yeah. As a result, so we can say that some level of reflection significantly predicted utilitarian behavior, which means that it supported the dual process of moral cognition. Then we have a concern now that in terms of validity of impartial beneficence, because it couldn't distinguish moral principles. Then we found that neither impartial beneficence nor instrumental harm were significant predictors of utilitarian behavior. So we found that there is a intention behavior gap utilitarianism. Yeah, here are my references. Thank you for attention.
We still have a couple minutes if you like.
No. Oh, right now? Okay, I can take. Yeah, if you have. Yeah.
Maybe I have a question. Can you go back to the
Sure.
to the meta-analysis, to the rare and
Yeah, just a second. Here.
okay, just a comment on that because so written like this, it seems that the rare and meta-analysis is bigger, but actually,
Yeah.
So in my meta-analysis, 52 papers, not
Yeah.
52 studies. So the paper.
Oh, okay.
So the studies are 111.
Yeah.
It's only personal dilemmas.
Yeah.
If you add the impersonal dilemmas, it's about 150.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's more than twice as much as the
I
rare
see.
meta-analysis.
Yeah.
So I was actually one of the reviewer of rare and
Mhm.
paper, and I told him that his meta-analysis was incomplete.
Mhm.
But he simply disregarded, so this was in cognition, general
Yeah.
cognition. He didn't submit a review, a revised version, he just sent the paper to Frontiers in Psychology, which is a
Mhm.
minor journal with a
Yeah.
very light report.
Yeah. To be honest,
without
yeah.
addressing the comment.
Yeah.
So I would strongly suggest you to not to trust that paper because it's basically wrong.
Yeah, when I read that paper first, they didn't even publish it anywhere, so it was in preprint. So you are right, and also they didn't differentiate between personal and impersonal dilemmas. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But also it has only half of the studies, so there's a huge selection bias.
Yeah, but also they were mentioned that we consider the selection bias and publication bias as well. But yeah, you are right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Any criteria was defined on the selection of the studies, why they eliminated half of the studies?
Maybe he didn't know that there were those papers. He didn't look for them.
So there is no inclusion or exclusion criteria based on the selection?
No, I think he didn't find all the studies. He was a very superficial meta-analysis. So he found a bunch of studies and put them there without really looking at all of the studies.
Okay, thank you for the contribution. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.